Hi, and welcome to our continuing series of interviews for International Day of Women and Girls in Science. I am Diana with Taptail Greenway, and today we're here with Dr. Kirsten Hofmockel. So she's from PNNL, and I will let her tell everyone what it is she does over there.
Hi, I'm a staff scientist over at PNNL. I am the lead of the microbiome science team, which means I lead a team of scientists that are interested in microbiology research. Some of it's environmental microbiology, some of it's health microbiology, some of it's even animal microbiology. And in addition to leading a team of scientists, I also do run several research programs, and those research programs are for the National Science Foundation and for the Department of Energy. And my research programs focus on environmental microbiomes and trying to understand how microorganisms that live in the soil process process dead plant material that's in the soil, and that can help make nutrients available for plants, and it also can influence our atmosphere because microbes breathe just like we do, and many microbes, when they exhale CO2, which goes into the atmosphere, or some of them exhale nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas, or methane. And so I study how microorganisms interact with each other and the soil environment to influence atmospheric chemistry.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really amazing. Um, so I'm going to start with some questions for you. So what is your view of being a scientist?
Well, I feel it's sort of a dream job in a lot of ways because it's a pretty creative job and there's a lot of opportunity to pursue things that are interesting to me. I get to pursue my own curiosities about the way the natural world functions. So I think that part's really fun. There's a lot of interacting with many different kinds of people, different people at different career stages. So many early career scientists, even many senior scientists. In my current position, I get to interact with university scientists, with people at the Department of Energy that are program managers, people that are interfacing with Congress. So I like all that diversity of kinds of people and different perspectives on science. But I think for me, the most, from a personal perspective, it's really fun to be able to pursue my curiosities. It's also really rewarding to be a part of something bigger. So helping people in their careers to become scientists or to use science. So interacting with people who may not be scientists but are translating that science. And also to be a part of something bigger where we may have a positive impact on how humans behave on this planet and how we interact with the environment.
Yeah, that's absolutely a very important message to get across. Yeah, and if you can work with the different people on that, then yeah, you can absolutely reach different people and different levels in different areas. So
Yeah, it's fun too because a lot of times we go to conferences and we get to share our ideas with other kinds of scientists and hear different kinds of perspectives, and so that can be really stimulating to think about ideas in new ways, and also as a broader community, as a global community of scientists, to really come together to try to solve problems.
mhm, great. So at what point did you decide that you wanted to be a scientist?
Well, I think I remember in ninth grade taking biology and just really digging it and thinking it was just fascinating and sort of came easy to me, and I liked thinking about it. And then after that, I took chemistry and the same thing, just really, really loved it. I think it probably wasn't until I was and then I knew I wanted to major in science. And I guess probably as a freshman in college, I was pretty committed to becoming a scientist. at that point.
Okay. So in college then, what was your undergraduate degree?
My undergraduate degree was in, I started out as a biology major and ended up with a environmental resource management.
As your
And then
undergraduate?
as an undergrad, yeah.
Okay.
And then I had like a minor in geology
Mm-hmm.
and then also in French.
Okay.
Yeah.
In case you get to go study over in France.
Well, that's why. Yeah, I wanted to do study abroad. So, you know, keep it balanced.
That works.
Yeah.
Have you been yet?
Yeah, I did. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I went and spent a couple weeks. We started our foreign language in like 7th grade. So by the time I was in high school, I had 4 years of French. And so I spent a couple weeks when I was 16 in France, and then I went my junior year and spent that in France. And then actually I've had an opportunity to go back for research meetings in France as an adult. So yeah, it's been really nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Those languages pay off then.
I think so.
Open up.
Plus, I think it's just great to understand how other people live, you know, to give that broader perspective. So when I was a professor, I always really encouraged students to pursue study abroad just to see how other people live.
Oh yeah, you have to. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just so enlightening, I guess. Just so you learn so much more from other people and other cultures, and yeah, that's really important. So that's great that you were able to do that and still have the opportunity to do that too.
Yeah.
So after the undergraduate degree, then how did that lead you to your graduate studies and your graduate degree?
Yeah, so as an undergraduate, I had the opportunity to do an undergraduate research project. And so my project was on constructed wetlands and trying to understand how wetlands can help to clean water. And so, you know, at that point, I was just doing some basic science of looking at how, you know, bacterial colonies changed after they'd gone through the wetland and how water quality changed when I went through the wetland. And, you know, it really opened my mind to the power of wetlands to clean water and what an impactful thing that could be. And it really just lit a fire in me. And so from there, I applied for an internship at the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center. And I had to apply a couple times before they took me. So I think the first time I applied, I didn't put enough postage on my application, so it never made it there. And I only tell this story because I think sometimes, you know, people assume if you land somewhere that it's been like an easy path, but you know, we all make ridiculous mistakes and like we live and learn. And I remember just emailing and saying like, you know, I really want this position and like, do you have any openings? And you know, we emailed back and forth for about 6 months until they finally like posted another position, and I went and I did an internship, and then it turned into a staff position at the Smithsonian. And then there I met several, interestingly, they had postdocs there. So those are the people that have already finished their graduate degrees and were doing research there as scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And they helped to direct me to a PhD program at Duke. And so then I left the Smithsonian and I went to Duke. I actually did a master's first in environmental management. Okay. And then I went and worked for the USDN on some water quality issues, and then got recruited back to the PhD program there and worked on some climate change research in forests. And then eventually that led me down to microbiology in the forest soils, because it seemed like a lot of the questions about how forests can take up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. You know, plants photosynthesize and they take up carbon dioxide. But then the question was, you know, if under elevated CO2, we see more plant growth, but it wasn't sure that there would be enough nutrients to sustain that over the long term. And it's the microbes that make those nutrients available for plants. And so from that work, I really started at that ecosystem level. And then when I started to dive down into how that ecosystem worked, it led me to the microbes. And then from there, that's what I've been doing since, really, is trying to understand the microbes in the soil and how they influence these larger scale outcomes.
Okay, excellent. So that part of that happened to be in with like my next question, I think, was with mentoring. So you definitely had um, good mentorship through your process, through your schooling.
I don't know that I've seen that. I think
No?
I had some good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really a hard thing. I mean, being a scientist doesn't necessarily mean you're a good mentor, right? I mean, they're very different
Yeah,
skill sets.
that's true. Yeah.
Um, and often it's like a stereotype that scientists lack social skills or maybe are not people oriented. And so, and I think being a mentor is more than like understanding what someone needs to do. It's understanding and really being committed to an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so,
Right.
so I think at the Smithsonian, there was definitely great mentorship. It's a much smaller organization. And so there, I think there was a lot of attention. Once I got to Duke, it's not, that's a pretty sink or swim kind of environment, or it was at the time that I was there.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I would say that wasn't really a priority there.
Mhm.
And it's always, I think it's been interesting as a female in science because there were no females. Like there were no females there to put on my committee or to take class. There was like one or two junior faculty that were females, and one of them left when I was there. The other one ends up being like all of the women want to work with them, so they just don't have the bandwidth. So it's a really challenging thing if you think about it. And so finding that mentorship as a grad student was pretty challenging, and even as an assistant professor, I think it was challenging. So it comes and goes. Sometimes you find someone that really connects with you, that really takes a vested interest, but
Right.
not necessarily. And I think sometimes even universities are trying to address it, so they'll have a formal mentoring program, and someone will be assigned to you as a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the most successful thing was to find somebody, of course, to do the formal mentoring that's been assigned to me, but also to find the individuals that you click with and that really get you and that really can help you to succeed as an individual,
Mhm.
because, there's some like recipes of like, oh, you need to publish, or you need to, do great science, or you need to, get invited places. But then there's like the very personal part, I think, of mentoring, which is understanding an individual and helping to figure out how to help them succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's so important.
And I think, even when people try to be good mentors, sometimes it's just mentoring is sort of magic when it really works, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really kind of a personal relationship.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to have that connection. Um, so that's great. It sounds like you had a good one. I mean, yeah, with the struggles with not having that many other females there at that
Yeah.
time. So,
I think
uh,
also like universities have really changed their perspectives on the importance of mentoring, and
mhm,
maybe at that time it wasn't so well recognized how important that was, not only for students, but even for faculty.
mhm.
Right. And so by the time I became a faculty member, it was becoming more, the conversation about mentoring and how important that was becoming more prevalent in the sciences.
Yep, yep. Um, all right. So, our last question is, how has your research changed through time? You might have already kind of gone over some of that.
Yeah, I mean, some of that. So like I started out doing wetland research, right? And it's interesting because at the time I was looking at how wetlands could improve water quality, but
Mhm.
ultimately it's it's those plants and the microorganisms together that do that. And
Right.
so then, when I started working on climate change in the forest, again, it was how the plants interact in the soil with the microorganisms. I think then once I became a professor, um, I was still asking those questions, but then I started diving a little bit more down into the microbiome and getting into some of the more molecular tools. And that's what really drove me to join a national lab, was that, my science is very interdisciplinary, and I was starting to get deep into the interdisciplinary science, and I found that a national lab was a better place for doing that brand of science. And so now I do a lot more genomic work and molecular work than I did in other times in my career. But I think the driving questions have always been the same, about understanding how carbon is exchanged between the soil and the atmosphere, and trying to understand how nutrient cycling influences carbon cycling, basically.
Okay. That's all very fascinating, very, very important to everything that's going on today. So, and we all need to know so much about that, and the connection between the ecosystems. It's all, one, all working together. So that's great. I mean, we do a lot of our education over at Amon Creek Natural Preserve with the wetlands and the riparian area and the sagebrush. I know it's all like linked together. It all works together. And yeah, the importance of the wetlands, I think a lot of people kind of miss that importance. They kind of see it's just a little creek. You guys, there's so much going on over there. It's really, really important area. So
it really is, and it has repercussions that extend much farther than the creek itself, right? And I think that's what's so amazing about wetlands, are their ability to sort of have an impact at a much larger spatial scale.
Oh yeah, I think wetlands are just fascinating.
Yeah. They're the living filters of our planet.
Yes, exactly.
And plus they create awesome habitats, right? And on the coastal side, they often create are really important for the fisheries in maintaining clean water. They have many services. They provide many ecosystem services.
Oh yeah, I know we've got so many animals over there, and so many people just don't realize what's over there. There's very active beaver family, and the beavers are the ones who are really making the changes throughout the wetlands, right? And then we've got muskrats and mink, and there's river otter, and then there's raccoon, and then we've got the jackrabbits in the shrub, and the coyotes kind of overseeing everybody. And then there's the fish, various fish in the creek, and it's just, there's so much going on over there. And yeah, you just take one little thing out, whether it's the animals or you're messing up with the soils. I mean, even the in the sagebrush, there's also we've got the lizards and snakes, and there's so much. And the birds, don't forget all the birds. Variety of birds over there. But yeah, just they all are just linked together. And not just them, it's with the water and with the soil and the trees and the atmosphere, everything together. So everything you are doing is amazing and very important.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for this opportunity. And great that you're highlighting women in science and thinking about that, and career paths. There's lots of different ways to be a scientist or to be involved with science. So it's great that you're doing this.
Thank you. I definitely wanted to get just some word out that there are women doing some amazing things. You just right here in our home of the Tri-Cities. So
it's interesting too, when we're not in the pandemic, there are high school internships and other ways that people can get involved with science, both at the national lab, but I'm sure at the university as well. And so lots of chances for females to sort of dip their toes into it and see if it's something that they like. I guess the other thing I'd say is that there's so many ways, so many different kinds of science. So when I was a professor and I would have undergrads work in my lab, I would often say, if this science doesn't excite you, it doesn't mean that science isn't for you. It might be that you belong in a different lab. And so I would encourage my students to try different kinds of labs. Because as you said, even talking about the wetlands, like you could be studying birds or plants or soil or like water. There's so many different kinds of science. And the lab work that's associated with that is really quite different. And so many, many different ways to be a scientist.
Oh yeah, so many opportunities. So it's not just a one shoe fits all. Is that the right
One size fits all? Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, there's so many. It's a huge field, and there's so many different avenues to go down, and so many opportunities.
Yeah.
So that's awesome that hopefully other girls and women watching will, realize that and just say, hey, like I like this area. Maybe I can, go and find a career over in this, doing something.
And I think there's opportunities for this next generation to think of new ways of doing science, new ways of communicating about science, new ways of advocating for science, right? I mean, like if we think about all of the social media and the communication streams that this next generation is embracing, one of the biggest challenges is translating science. And so I think there's huge opportunities on the communication front to think about new ways of taking this very technical work that we do and making it more publicly consumable so that we don't have a mistrust of science or a misunderstanding of science, but to really make it something that's much more vernacular and like commonplace.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I try to do some of that in my writing and try to incorporate that and try to get it down into non-science focused areas where people can see that. Because it is so important. If someone, there's the conferences and journals and all of this, people who aren't, into science, don't read that or don't pay attention to conferences or don't listen to those kind of podcasts or whatever. And so it needs to be converted into into mainstream. It needs to be I wouldn't say like simplified, but it just needs to be
translated. It's translated. We have a lot of I also think the work that you do and others with like BioBlitzes and citizen science, all of that contributes. And so there's so many ways to get involved and even just to try it out and see if it's a good fit or if there's something.
Oh yeah.
But I also think that there's lots of opportunities to create new kinds of careers around science and sort of innovating on that frontier.
Oh, absolutely. I think citizen science is an awesome thing. I'm like huge advocate for citizen science and just get people involved. Just like if you learn a little bit about something, you're gonna fall in love with it. And then when you love something, you want to protect it. So
right.
And it and it just gets people out more and experiences more. So I don't know. So I've got one I'm working on for Frog Watch. So I'll be starting that pretty soon. I'll announce the dates later. But
little teaser.
I want to get people, out to the creek and we're, be watching for frogs and just recording and listening and just see what other frogs we have in the area or may not have in the area. We're trying to find out where they are. So I think it'd be really interesting to find out. And hopefully a lot of other people will think so too and will join in doing that. So, well, this has been a great time with you. So thank you for your time and joining us.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Yeah, thanks. And so I guess we will sign off and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks for the interview.
Yeah.